This young man is the elite special forces soldier of the South Korean army. He's staring down a terrorist who's taken hostages. The terrorist has a bomb strapped to his body, and any wrong move could blow everyone to pieces. His superiors are too afraid to risk the hostages' lives, so they've just got the area surrounded. Things are incredibly tense right now, and he feels like if he just sits around waiting for orders, people are going to die. In this critical moment, Seol-woo decides to disobey a direct order and take matters into his own hands. He quickly grabs his sniper rifle and jumps from the rooftop to get a better shot. Without a moment's hesitation, Seol-woo coolly pulls the trigger, sending the terrorist straight to hell and shocking everyone around him. Even though he successfully saved the hostage, he gets arrested for disobeying orders. Seol-woo gets brought into the Central Intelligence Agency. The prosecutors there try to dig up info on him, but they can't get anything. Even a lie detector test can't find a crack in his story. His superiors are super impressed with his skills and how calm he stays, so they offer him a job as a national intelligence agent. In South Korea, there are 3 types of agents. White agents operate openly, using their real names. Black agents are anonymous, working secretly in the shadows. And finally, the most dangerous type is ghost agents. They assume fake identities, get embedded deep within organizations, and operate in total secrecy. Seol-woo is offered the chance to become a ghost and work overseas. Seol-woo was thrilled with his promotion and readily accepted his superior's offer. His first international assignment: get close to the daughter of an Italian mafia boss. Posing as a university professor, he easily befriended the boss's daughter. His intelligence and striking good looks quickly won her over, and he soon became her boyfriend, granting him access to her father. Seol-woo then dropped the charade and confidently blackmailed the boss, having discovered his secret past as a special agent. His true objective wasn't to take the boss down, but to use him. Things went according to plan when the boss had Seol-woo kidnapped and imprisoned in the world's most secure prison, a place teeming with terrorists and notorious gang leaders. Getting in here was tough, getting out is even tougher. His mission, should Hin choose to accept it, is to break out a foreign agent who's being held here. For a normal person, this mission would be next to impossible, but for Seol-woo, it's a piece of cake. After scoping out the prison's operations, he and the agent quietly prepare their escape plan. First, they gathered components to build a bomb to knock out the power. Then, thanks to a slip of paper tucked into a door crack, they were able to unlock their cell during the blackout. Their freedom was short-lived. They were quickly discovered, and guards formed a perimeter to recapture them. But their efforts were futile. Seol-woo and the agent successfully escaped through a hidden tunnel. There's just one last step to finish the mission: ending his relationship with the crime boss's daughter. He decides to fake his death to break it off. Mission accomplished. But before he can even catch his breath, a new assignment lands in his lap. A fellow agent has gone rogue, vanishing after sending one final message: find 3 wooden statues containing vital national secrets. One of these statues is believed to be hidden in the secret villa of Victor, a notorious Russian terrorist. To infiltrate Victor's exclusive birthday party, Seol-woo must become the personal bodyguard of a famous A-list celebrity. Woon Gwang, a popular martial arts action star, is flanked by his biggest fan and close personal manager, Do-ha. While investigating his target, Seol-woo is unexpectedly caught red-handed by this very manager. Thinking he's a paparazzi, she deletes all the photos he's secretly taken. Back at his hidden base, he's intrigued by this feisty woman, a real tough cookie. Even though he's able to recover the deleted data, it's not enough. The intel related to his mission is a big fat 0. Today is Woon Gwang's commercial shoot, so everyone's up and at it early. While getting some fresh air on the balcony, Do-ha spots the paparazzi from yesterday. Not only that, she witnesses him pulling off some slick thievery. She stealthily follows his every move. While he's distracted, Do-ha swiftly takes him down, catching him red-handed. The commotion causes a stir on set, drawing everyone's attention to the captured thief. Just then, the agency director rushes over, frantically telling her to let him go. Before Do-ha can process what's happening, she finds herself in a hold. Seol-woo smoothly introduces himself as everyone's new head of security. It's a grand entrance that impresses everyone except Woon Gwang, who's less than thrilled to have a bodyguard hired by his ex-girlfriend following him around. He refuses to even wear the red shirt his ex gave him. Despite putting on a tough front, deep down, Woon Gwang feels differently. He watches his first love's car drive away, a pang of regret washing over him. Seeing her brother so down, his manager comes over to comfort him, suggesting a clever way to get rid of the bodyguard. He should hire him, she says. With Woon Guang's demanding personality, the bodyguard is sure to quit on his own, and he won't risk offending the major shareholder who sent him this gift. While he feels her plan is a little devious, he's intrigued enough to go along with it. The next day, Du-ha calls the new bodyguard to her office for an interview. Even though Seal Wu was mentally prepared, he was taken aback by the interviewer's tricky questions. However, all of his answers pleased the manager, who commented that he possessed all the opposite qualities of Woon Guang. So, everyone began planning for the bodyguard's first day. His initial task? Waking up the client. The difficult client deliberately burrowed under the covers, making it harder for him. Seal Wu was annoyed to find a lazy slug before him, and coldly grabbed the alarm clock, walking into the bathroom with it. From his background check, Seal Wu knew the actor got a kick out of tormenting others. A twisted psycho, tough on the weak and weak with the tough. To knock some sense into his arrogant boss, Seal Wu rigged up a ticking time bomb and hung it over his bed. He warned his client that if he didn't press a button, the bomb would go off. Woon Guang was scared stiff when he saw it, but he tried to convince himself it was just a fake, a prank pulled by his bodyguard. Seal Wu calmly explained the bomb's components and how it worked, then stepped back and started a countdown, assuring his boss that as long as he hit the button, it wouldn't explode. Seeing the serious look on Seal Wu's face, Woon Guang began to fear for his life. Panicked, he scrambled out of bed to disarm the bomb, proving Seal Wu's point all along. With the first task of waking up the VIP completed, Seal Wu was satisfied and left, leaving the actor fuming. His next schedule was a film shoot, but a traffic jam on the highway set him off, throwing a tantrum like a spoiled child. He whined incessantly to his bodyguard about being late, while Seal Wu maintained his cool, professional demeanor, indulging his client. He hopped out of the car, dragging his VIP along with him, to run and make it on time, surprising everyone with this unexpected turn of events. Du-ha quickly chased after the two men to the train station, but she was a step too late. As the train started to move, she could only watch helplessly as her brother took off with a stranger. The timing was perfect. They arrived on set 8 minutes early. Woon Guang wasn't impressed though. He was more concerned about being recognized on the train, and the fact that no one seemed to notice him was irritating. Seal Wu, ever perceptive, stepped aside to make his client more visible. As soon as the A-list star was spotted on the train, a crowd gathered, snapping pictures and asking for autographs. Thanks to this incident, Woon Guang's name shot to the top of the search rankings. From then on, his attitude towards his bodyguard shifted, surprising Du-ha. His way of speaking and his gestures towards Seal Wu became much friendlier. While Seal Wu was getting used to his new role, his superior was working tirelessly to find information about the missing agent. He teamed up with Miyun to buy information. She was Woon Guang's first love and the person who got Seal Wu the bodyguard job. Now, she is married to Congressman Sung Jae, a devil in human form, stopping at nothing to get what he wants, has teamed up with Congressman Baek to find 3 wooden statues. Things get even more dangerous when a second powerful player enters the game. With their vast financial resources, they control a network of skilled agents capable of threatening Seoul. Even the missing ghost agent was kidnapped by them. The manager is furious about the bodyguard taking the A-list star on a highway chase earlier today. She finally gets a chance to confront him that night. Du-ha demand an explanation? What if something had happened to the actor on that train? Could he have handled the consequences? But Seal Wu confidently assured her that everything was under control. He was aware of everyone who approached him, and the train schedule and passengers were all accounted for. There was nothing to worry about. Du-ha was impressed but maintained her composure, firmly stating that she knew her brother's whereabouts at all times. Just then, the alarm Seal Wu had set went off. It turned out Woon Guang had snuck out of the house for some fried chicken. After much effort, he finally made it to the chicken restaurant. But before he could take a bite of that first drumstick, chopsticks flew through the air, pinning the chicken to the plate. Woon Guang turned around in shock to find his manager standing there. He grabbed the chicken and bolted, with his manager in hot pursuit. Luckily, Seal Wu appeared just in time, pulling him into an alley. But since Woon Guang was on a diet, Seal Wu couldn't let him eat the chicken. At that moment, Du-ha spotted them, stunned to see the pair gazing intently at each other. Noticing his sister's injured leg, Woon Guang gently helped her, checking to see if she was okay. This thoughtful gesture instantly turned her into a devoted fan. The next day, the director came to the house to announce the party guests, and Seal Wu couldn't hide his excitement when he learned he was invited too. It was also the first day of shooting for the new movie. Woon Guang was about to enter the studio when he stopped short, spotting his ex-girlfriend waiting at the gate. Seeing his client's unease, Seal Wu offered to handle the situation for him. With his smooth talking and impressive acting skills, Seol Woo managed to intimidate the ex into leaving with just a brief conversation. Woon Gwang was surprised to see her go so easily. He was pleased with his bodyguard's performance, and their bond grew stronger. Today's script called for Woon Gwang to drive a car. The director wanted to use a stunt double, but he refused, insisting on doing the scene himself, unaware that someone was trying to harm him. Seol Woo spotted a suspicious person lurking around the actor's car. Before he could intervene, Woon Gwang drove off to film the scene. Things took a terrifying turn when the car's brakes failed, sending it careening out of the studio. Seol Woo calmly jumped into a nearby car and gave chase. With his elite agent skills, he effortlessly caught up to the runaway vehicle, executing a drift to block it before it plunged over a cliff. Woon Gwang was rushed to the hospital unconscious, leaving everyone worried about his condition. Seol Woo overheard that this wasn't the first time the actor had been in a car accident. His brakes had failed during a previous action scene as well. He suspected the crew member he'd seen earlier near the car was responsible for cutting the brake lines. Recognizing the man's military-trained gait, the fact that the man vanished without a trace only confirmed his expertise as a ghost agent. Woon Gwang was the key to Seol Woo's undercover mission, so his safety was paramount. While unconscious, Woon Gwang relived painful memories of the previous accident that had taken everything from him, especially his girlfriend, who left him to marry someone else. During that dark period, he met Do-ha, who had also recently suffered a great loss with the death of a loved one. Two people, both victims of fate, found solace in each other. This encounter led her to become his manager. After a period of recovery in the hospital, he was finally discharged, fully healed. He was deeply grateful to Bodyguard Kim, the man who saved his life. After his near-death experience, his confidence was shaken, so he offered Bodyguard Kim a 24/7 protection gig with a lucrative contract. Although hesitant to get further entangled with the actor, Seol Woo had no choice but to accept. News of Woon Gwang's accident spread online. Sung Jae, the mastermind behind it all, was pleased with the outcome. He carefully studied his wife's reactions to see if she still harbored feelings for her ex, but Mi-yoon deflected whenever her husband brought up the topic, avoiding questions about her former love. However, when her husband was away, she had someone investigate the cause of Woon Gwang's accident. The findings mirrored those of the car accident 7 years prior. All traces of evidence had been wiped clean from the scene, and the prime suspect had vanished into thin air. Seol Woo's superior suspected Congressman Sung Jae was behind the recent incident, but Mi-yoon disagreed, pointing out that her husband was the one who invested in the film. However, the chief warned her to be careful, as Sung Jae was a true devil, simply hiding his claws. He also reminded her of the agreement they had made. Seol Woo was busy preparing to infiltrate Chairman Victor's house, but a new problem arose. Woon Gwang had suspended all activities after the accident, including attending Chairman Victor's secret birthday party. The entire plan would fall apart if Woon Gwang didn't return to work, so he resorted to various antics to motivate Woon Gwang, even dressing up as a woman. His soulful glances and goofy smiles surprised everyone present. Even he couldn't believe what he was doing. Just then, Do-ha received a call from prison. Her father wanted to see her, but she knew he only wanted money. She was tired of giving money to her deadbeat dad, so she met her best friend for drinks to drown her sorrows. Despite claiming to hate her father, she had his inmate number memorized for sending money, meticulously recording each transaction in a notebook. Returning home drunk, Do-ha stumbled towards Bodyguard Kim's room, but he quickly spotted her and locked the door. He thought he'd deterred her, but he was wrong. With a mischievous grin, Do-ha pulled out a spare key, leaving Seol Woo powerless. He could only lie there and listen as she poured out her heart. After her father went to prison, debt collectors showed up at his funeral, beating her and demanding she repay his debts. Do-ha had contemplated ending it all, but then she met Woon Gwang. He showed her that there were people even more unfortunate than her, like someone dumped by their ex for the chairman of a famous corporation. She then collapsed on the bed and fell asleep. After hearing her story, Seol Woo devised a plan to get the actor back to work. He would use Woon Gwang's ex-girlfriend to provoke him. So Seol Woo invited him out for a beer and a heart-to-heart. He skillfully stoked Woon Gwang's hidden emotions, revealing that he was hired as a bodyguard by the actor's ex-girlfriend, and that the company's major shareholder was none other than Madame Mi-yoon. Woon Gwang was stunned by this revelation, but quickly offered Seol Woo a position, working directly for him. Seol Woo declined, stating he only served those of higher status. This fueled Woon Gwang's ambition, and he returned to work the next morning. His first engagement was Chairman Victor's birthday party. Security was so tight that not even a mouse could slip through. Only guests with invitations were allowed entry. After successfully entering the building, Seol Woo quickly donned a special tracking device to map the layout. The main guy, Chairman Victor, finally showed up to the party. He was pumped to invite Woon Guang to check out his secret collection after the party. Woon Guang was escorted by the chairman's people to the secret room. Everything was going according to Seol Woo's plan. But at the last minute, Woon Guang wanted Seol Woo to come into the room with him, which meant he wouldn't have time to steal the wooden statue. Since he'd already jumped in, Seol Woo had no choice but to go inside the room and come up with a new plan of attack. They only had 3 minutes before everything went down the drain. Before the party, he'd met with Russian intelligence to request assistance. Seol Woo would find incriminating evidence against the chairman, and in exchange, the Russians would hit the mansion with an electromagnetic pulse. Now, he had to resort to Plan B. The secret room was filled with cultural artifacts from around the world, but Seol Woo's eyes were drawn to a small wooden statue tucked away in a corner. Right on cue, the Russians unleashed the EMP, shutting down all electronic devices and triggering a security lockdown. Despite his frustration, the chairman continued the birthday party as planned. While everyone was distracted by a performance, Seol Woo slipped away unnoticed. He infiltrated the 3rd floor, where the secret room was located. Despite heavy security, he easily bypassed the guards. Seol Woo coolly took down the guards stationed outside the room. He quickly smashed the display case, grabbed the statues, and had someone smuggle the marked statue out. Meanwhile, Du-ha noticed the bodyguard's absence and went looking for him. As she reached the staircase, she saw her bodyguard jump from the upper floor, pursued by 2 security guards. Seol Woo swiftly grabbed her, pretending they were lovers, to fool the guards. Once the coast was clear, Seol Woo coldly told her to forget what she'd seen and return to the party, leaving Du-ha bewildered. Suddenly, Russian forces stormed the party to arrest Chairman Victor, throwing the event into chaos. Back at the hotel preparing for her flight home, Du-ha was still suspicious about her bodyguard's true identity and requested a private meeting. She couldn't wrap her head around what had happened earlier that day, and no matter how much she pleaded with him to tell her the truth, he refused. To distract his manager, Seol Woo started laying on the charm, thick with cheesy pickup lines. The moment Du-ha's defenses faltered, he promptly stood up and left. His secret mission was a complete success. The wooden statue was already back in Korea. After scanning the statue's interior, Seol Woo discovered a hidden key, but it was only one piece of a larger key. 2 more pieces were hidden inside 2 other wooden statues, and those were the real targets of this mission. With the mission over, it was time for Seol Woo to shed his bodyguard persona. He planned to blow up his car, as he did in overseas missions, but his superior vetoed the idea. In Korea, he could only disappear by resigning or getting fired. Seol Woo relished the prospect of acting up and getting the boot. The next day at work, he unleashed his inner diva, stealing the lead actor's chair and snapping at everyone. But it backfired. Woon Guang simply assumed his bodyguard was tired. Only Du-ha misinterpreted his behavior as jealousy over her hugging someone else. That evening, the team celebrated their successful project with a hot pot dinner. Seol Woo broke his own rule by drinking on the job, deepening Du-ha's misunderstanding. She proceeded to drink herself silly. Everyone grew concerned as she continued to drink uncontrollably. Finally, Seol Woo intervened, fearing a repeat of the drunken room invasion. But when he tried to stop her from drinking more, Du-ha's delusion intensified, mistaking his actions for affection. Seeing bodyguard Kim step outside alone, she followed him, rambling about how she couldn't reciprocate his feelings and asking if they could just remain colleagues. Seol Woo refused, explaining that his entire act was to get fired. He wasn't about to start over. The next morning, Seol Woo went to his client to resign, but Woon Guang wouldn't hear of it. He insisted on keeping Seol Woo by his side, declaring him his best friend. Seol Woo coolly placed his resignation letter on the table and walked out, leaving a frustrated Woon Guang behind. Meanwhile, Du-ha visited her father in prison, annoyed as always by his requests for money. He suddenly asked her about a gift he'd given her, something important he wanted her to keep until he was released. Information about the second statue surfaced. It was currently in the possession of an antiquities smuggler known as Goldfinger. Back home, Du-ha learned about Seol Woo's resignation and immediately confronted him. Seol Woo laid his cards on the table, telling her he didn't like her, and that her constant misinterpretations and assumptions were exhausting and irritating. His harsh words wounded Du-ha's pride. She couldn't believe he disliked her so much. She fought back tears until he left. Before he could get far, his superior called, ordering him to retract his resignation. Annoyed by his superior's interference, but duty-bound, Seol Woo decided to deceive Du-ha for the sake of the mission. He turned back to her and planted a passionate kiss on her lips, leaving her stunned. Shocked by Bodyguard Kim's bold move, she immediately slapped him. Despite his sweet-talking explanations, Du-ha wasn't ready to forgive him just yet. Seol-woo walked away, leaving her standing there dumbfounded. The target of his next mission was Du-ha. He had to find the ring her father had given her. It was the key to unlocking the secret of the second statue. Though romancing targets was part of an agent's skill set, Seol-woo had a bad feeling about this one. Early the next morning, Seol-woo returned to the VIP's house. Hearing Bodyguard Kim's assertive voice, Woon Gwang shot out of bed in surprise. His best friend was back. Only Du-ha felt awkward around Bodyguard Kim on set. His cheesy lines and affectionate gestures made her cringe. Woon Gwang sensed something fishy between the two. Intrigued by his sister's beaming smile, upon receiving a text from the bodyguard, he eyed them suspiciously, their relationship becoming a major question mark in his mind. Meanwhile, Seol-woo was searching Du-ha's apartment for the ring. Despite turning the place upside down, he found nothing. Frustrated, he jumped when his phone rang. It was the VIP, unexpectedly inviting him to dinner at a fancy restaurant. A perfect opportunity to probe their relationship. Mid-conversation, a young boy approached, asking for a picture with his idol. To Woon Gwang's surprise, the boy was his ex-girlfriend's son. Seeing the woman who abandoned him during his lowest point dampened his mood, and he decided to head home. Woon Gwang then unexpectedly probed his best friend about his love life, expressing sympathy for Bodyguard Kim's apparent entanglement in a love triangle. Bodyguard Kim had feelings for the manager, and the manager had feelings for Woon Gwang. But regardless of the reason, Du-ha was his sister. So if the bodyguard messed with her, Woon Gwang would make him pay. The next day, Du-ha was furious that her brother knew. Why had Seol-woo told him? Seol-woo's mission seemed compromised. His superiors were being followed by high-ranking agents sent to tail the team leader. The National Intelligence Service had caught wind of the wooden statue, so everyone gathered to discuss a plan. Things were moving faster than anticipated, so Seol-woo proposed using the statue as bait. Team leader Yang would intentionally leak the location of the statue, exchanged to lure their enemies into a trap. Seeing his target, the assassin fired directly at the car window, aiming for a kill shot. But he hadn't anticipated bulletproof glass. The hunter became the hunted. Before he could escape, Seol-woo landed a critical shot in his shoulder. Mortally wounded, the assassin desperately sought an escape route. Like a true ghost agent, he'd prepared for this, pulling out a smoke bomb to obscure Seol-woo's vision. This gave him the opening he needed to break free. Seeing the assassin getting away, Seol-woo switched his weapon to pursuit mode, but the assassin was a step ahead, vanishing into thin air. This was the same man responsible for the actor's accident. Given his skills, capturing him wouldn't be easy. After the ambush failed, Seol-woo immediately drove to the manager's apartment. In this war of affection, he couldn't afford to lose. Du-ha was completely smitten by Seol-woo's sweet talk. He'd managed to melt her icy heart. Following her heart, she leaned in and gave him a warm kiss. Seol-woo's plan worked flawlessly. He was officially Du-ha's boyfriend now. Suddenly, she received a call informing her that her father had been released. Du-ha immediately rushed home to confirm the news. Seeing his daughter return home with a boyfriend, her dad was overjoyed at meeting his potential future son-in-law. To win over his girlfriend's father, Seol-woo decided to have a serious drinking session with him. To Seol-woo, the older man was a textbook example of a Korean con artist. Being in and out of jail was a normal thing for him, much to Du-ha's annoyance whenever her dad boasted about his work with such pride. Returning to headquarters completely drunk, Seol-woo had nevertheless gathered a crucial piece of intel. The secret ring was still in Du-ha's possession, hidden somewhere safe. Not only were the agents after it, but Chairman Sung-jae was also plotting to steal the ring. He was determined to get his hands on the key that could unlock this massive secret. The next day, Chief Yang received a lucrative offer from an unlikely source. His enemy, Congressman Baek, having been double-crossed by the chairman, reached out to the chief. He promised to provide valuable intel on Sung-jae in exchange for a suitable reward. Meanwhile, it was Du-ha and Seol-woo's second day as a couple, wanting to impress Bodyguard Kim. She dressed up to the nines. However, since they were keeping their relationship a secret, Seol-woo had to criticize her fashion choices. Even though it was her plan, Du-ha still felt a pang of disappointment. While his daughter was at work, her dad took the opportunity to search for the ring. Despite turning the house upside down, he couldn't find it. Assuming his daughter had given the ring to her boyfriend, her dad met up with Seol-woo to discuss it. But after probing him, he found out Seol-woo didn't have the ring either, leaving him feeling defeated. Suddenly, his daughter called, frantically reporting that their house had been ransacked. They both rushed home. The place was a mess, with clear signs of forced entry. Seo Woo remembered seeing a black car parked outside earlier. He suspected it was Chairman Sung Jae's men. He quickly ran outside to check, but the car had already sped off. Sensing the escalating danger of the mission, he decided to move in with Do-ha, both to protect her and to have better access to search for the ring. Meanwhile, Chief Yang was putting a new plan into action. He would personally go to the scene and approach Do-ha's father. Their goal was to pose as antique collectors and buy the ring. Being greedy, Do-ha's father could only hope his daughter would hand over the ring to him when presented with a large sum of money. At the same time, Do-ha is on a date with her bodyguard, and their relationship blossoms. While eating together, Seo Woo accidentally discovered that the ring wasn't hidden, but kept in a place known to her father. Unfortunately, her dad's lack of sincerity prevented him from finding it. Suddenly, Seo Woo noticed he was being tailed. Taking advantage of a blind corner, he quickly lost them. This sudden, decisive action made Do-ha's heart flutter. Even back at the house, he remained vigilant, watching out for any intruders. Seeing his daughter so affectionate with her boyfriend touched Do-ha's father. Finally, his daughter had found someone who could take care of her. As a father, he was determined to buy her a downtown apartment as a wedding gift. So, the next morning, he went to the Sung Jae Corporation to meet with the chairman. He proposed to sell the ring for 2 billion won. The chairman, eager to make the deal, ordered his men to bring the cash. However, Do-ha's father hadn't brought the ring with him and stalled for time. As a down payment for the deal, the chairman gave him a high-end luxury watch, along with a warning: if he gave the ring to anyone else, he'd take back the watch along with his arm. Back home, he tried to convince his daughter to hand over the ring, but she refused. Do-ha was furious that he constantly abandoned her for his selfish gains. Even at her mother's funeral, when she was being attacked, he just stood by and left. That was the last straw, severing their bond. This time was no different. He hadn't changed his ways and was only causing her more pain. Seo Woo comforted his girlfriend, advising her to think carefully before acting. If necessary, she should cut ties with her father and never see him again. But if she felt filial piety, she needed to be very cautious in how she helped him. In a moment of vulnerability, Do-ha revealed that she kept the ring with her grandfather. If her father sincerely wanted to change, he should visit her grandfather's grave to retrieve it. Knowing the ring's location, Seo Woo immediately went to the gravesite. The moment he found the ring was the moment he abandoned his role as Do-ha's boyfriend. The next morning, her father met with Seo Woo, excitedly recounting how he'd sold the ring to the famous chairman, showing off the watch he'd received. Seo Woo immediately recognized the watch as having a listening device. He frantically contacted Do-ha to ensure her safety, but it was too late. She had already been kidnapped. Seo Woo had no choice but to go alone and rescue her from the clutches of the enemy. After pinpointing Do-ha's location, Seo Woo immediately sprang into action. He cautiously checked every corner, making his way toward the shipping container where the signal was coming from. As he reached for the door, a sense of foreboding washed over him. With his top agent instincts, he replayed his steps. There hadn't been a single guard or security camera. That meant only one thing: a bomb was waiting for him behind that door. Seo Woo's eyes darted to a stack of wooden crates, where he spotted a countdown timer. Even with his combat experience, disarming a bomb was always a gamble. He calmly snipped wire after wire as the timer ticked down. The real pressure came with the final 2 wires. One wrong move and the bomb would detonate. He hesitated over the blue wire, but trusting his gut, he decisively cut the red one, disabling the bomb. Certain the danger had passed, Seo Woo ripped open the container doors. Inside, he found only a computer displaying a live feed of Do-ha held captive. He listened furiously as the kidnapper taunted him, demanding he deliver the wooden statues and the ring before nightfall or Do-ha would be killed. Enraged, Seo Woo emptied his gun into the computer. Just then, the Special Forces team arrived, but they were too late. Before leaving, Seo Woo snatched the detonator from the bomb. Using his connections, he tracked down the person who sold the bomb-making materials. He sped off to the junkyard, where the explosives dealer operated. After realizing Seo Woo was a government agent, his attitude immediately changed. He ordered his men to deal with the cop. Seo Woo, having no time for games, pulled out his gun, firing a warning shot at the approaching thugs. Simultaneously, he grabbed the leader, holding him tight and demanding to know who they were. Meanwhile, Do-ha was being interrogated about the ring. The man questioning her claimed to be from National Intelligence, saying they'd taken her to locate the ring her father hid, a ring he claimed put many lives at risk. Do-ha wasn't sure whether to believe him or not. He pressed on, trying to figure out who knew the ring's location. Du-ha realized only Kim, her bodyguard, could know the secret. Coupled with his suspicious behavior at the chairman's birthday party, the interrogator's words started to make sense, and Du-ha began to question Seol's true identity. Meanwhile, the traitorous agent's identity had been uncovered by his superiors. Records showed he'd disappeared during an overseas mission. A nationwide manhunt was immediately launched by the intelligence agency. Seol, determined to pinpoint the traitor's hideout, paid a visit to Congressman Baek. He easily took down Baek's security detail before holding the congressman at gunpoint. Having confirmed the enemy's location, Seol quickly returned to base to prepare for the exchange. Despite being closely guarded, Du-ha managed to steal a phone from one of the thugs and immediately called her brother, Woon Gwang, for help. Stunned to hear his sister had been kidnapped, he rushed to Bodyguard Kim's house to get answers. Just then, Seol Woo emerged. Mistaking him for being hostile, he subdued Woon Gwang. After confirming his identity, Seol Woo explained his true role. Much to Woon Gwang's fury, he couldn't believe Seol Woo had deceived everyone just to complete his mission. Though angry, saving Du-ha was paramount. Woon Gwang pleaded with Seol Woo to let him help. With the clock ticking, they raced to the exchange location. Woon Gwang would pose as the one making the trade, while Seol Woo infiltrated the warehouse where Du-ha was being held. Upon receiving the signal, Woon Gwang launched his attack from the outside. As a top-tier martial arts actor, he easily held his own against the small fry, while Seol Woo engaged the traitorous agent inside. They clashed fiercely, and both highly skilled operatives evenly matched. Despite being pushed to his limits, Seol Woo remained calm and in control, ensuring the hostage's safety while simultaneously subduing the remaining guards. He finally overpowered the traitor, leaving him badly injured and unable to fight back. He quickly untied Du-ha, checking on her condition. She was relieved to see him there. Suddenly, the sound of Woon Gwang's voice cut through the romantic moment. Seol Woo realized the fight outside was still intense, and he rushed out to support his senior. Together, they took down all the enemies before the special forces arrived. The hostage rescue was a success, but Seol Woo could only watch his girlfriend from afar. Finding the ring was also the moment he had to disappear. After carefully entrusting Du-ha to his superior, he vanished into the night without a trace. One enemy escaped, immediately calling President Seung-jae to report the ring's loss. Enraged, Seung-jae ordered the complete elimination of the incompetent trackers. They were useless and had to be dealt with. To save his skin while being interrogated, he sent out a high-level distress signal to call Seol Woo in. He also spilled the location where his senior went missing. His deal was simple: just help him break out of here, and the evidence and the real bad guys who are about to bite the dust, plus the missing senior, would be handed over. It's all about self-preservation. Seol Woo agreed to his terms. Meanwhile, the boss asked the manager and Woon Gwang to sign a National Security Act. But Du-ha didn't want to sign it, because she had a burning question for him. So she wanted to talk to her bodyguard Kim. The squad leader couldn't say no to her. They met, and things were awkward. Seol Woo wanted to ask how her injury was, but he just couldn't bring himself to say anything. He knew he was a government agent, and that this relationship couldn't go any further. So he had to come clean about his mission. He couldn't give her all the details, but he let her know that the operation was done, and he was going to disappear quietly. Du-ha was completely shocked to hear he was leaving. She tried to hold on to a sliver of hope for their relationship, asking if his feelings for her were fake. Seol Woo just coldly replied that as an agent, he had to lie all the time, and that his feelings for her were just a tool he used to complete the mission. Du-ha couldn't believe what she was hearing. The feeling of betrayal shattered her heart. Even after all that, she still agreed to meet him tomorrow, so they could talk again with calmer heads. Little did Du-ha know, it was her brother who asked bodyguard Kim to disappear from this relationship. As much as he regretted it, this was how he could protect his little sister. According to the original operation plan, the next morning Seol Woo, disguised as a chairman, showed up at the hotel. He teamed up with another agent to trick the hotel reception staff. After getting a VIP auction pass, he quickly ditched the disguise and got back to business. Feelings were now just a hurdle, blocking the urgent mission. He could only watch Du-ha standing alone outside the door, without giving her any hope about their relationship. Rumors were flying around the company that bodyguard Kim had beaten up Woon Gwang. Everyone thought that bodyguard Kim must have been holding back so much that he finally snapped. But what Woon Gwang was worried about was his little sister's state of mind. After the bodyguard left, her spirits were broken. She couldn't trust anyone anymore. Not wanting to see his sister suffer like this, Woon Gwang went to talk to Seol Woo. He wanted to invite him back as his bodyguard, but he was turned down. As far as Seol Woo was concerned, That identity was over. Bodyguard Kim was no more. The next day, the news broke that Do-ha's father had been arrested as a suspect in a murder case. She was completely shocked and called the squad leader, begging for help. She was afraid that the wooden ring was the reason her father was being framed. But because this was a matter of national security, he couldn't reveal anything. He could only ask her to trust him to handle it. But she couldn't just sit around and wait. She didn't trust the National Intelligence Service or the prosecutor's office. The only person who could help her father now was Seol Woo. So she begged her brother to take her to him to ask for help. Seol Woo felt guilty that her father had been dragged into this mission. Seeing his awkwardness, Woon Gwang got curious and asked him to just say what he needed help with. Whether it was related to national security or Do-ha, he was willing to help. Given the green light from his friend, Seol Woo didn't hesitate to ask to borrow $5 million, which made Woon Gwang's heart skip a beat. The intelligence agency was currently having problems with inside interference. The deadline was noon tomorrow. After that, it would be useless. Do-ha didn't trust Seol Woo at all, so she advised her brother not to lend him the money. After thinking for a long time, Woon Gwang finally decided to invest in him. As long as he could guarantee that Do-ha's father would be released from prison, no amount of money was too much. Even though her brother agreed to lend him the money, Do-ha needed some kind of guarantee. That's why she made Seol Woo sign a contract selling himself. He was forced to go back to being a bodyguard Kim and stay with VIP 24/7 with no disappearing acts anymore. Everything had to be reported to the creditor to get the $5 million. The intelligence agency was in complete chaos right now. Sung Jae, wanting to find a replacement for Congressman Baek, contacted the squad leader. He arranged to meet him at the military cafeteria to make an offer. If Chief Yang agreed to hand over the 2 missing keys, he would support him in getting the director of the intelligence agency position. Even though he firmly rejected the offer, it still weighed on him, especially with his close colleague, Prosecutor Lee, in prison. Today was Seol Woo's first day back as bodyguard Kim. Everyone in the crew welcomed him back, except for Woon Gwang, who wasn't too happy, because today was the day they went to the bank to withdraw the operation money. Woon Gwang kept repeating the number $5 million in front of Seol Woo, hoping he would change his mind, but all he got in return was a pleading look, along with a gentle hung from Seol Woo. Woon Gwang saw his best friend act like this for the first time. He had to hesitate for a long time before he could finally bring himself to transfer the money. But with one condition, Seol Woo had to set up a meeting with Ma-yoon for him. There were things that Woon Gwang needed to confirm with his ex. This operation plan needed the participation of both of them, thanks to satellite tracking. Seol Woo quickly located Ma-yoon. The plan started with Woon Gwang planting a jammer underneath her car. While the bodyguard was checking on the car, Seol Woo quickly snatched the car keys from the bodyguard and approached Ma-yoon to bring her to where her ex, Woon Gwang, was waiting. They only had 5 minutes to talk. Woon Gwang desperately wanted to know why she was willing to leave him and walk away. Even though she denied it, when Woon Gwang saw the look in his ex's eyes, he knew she was lying. He confidently declared that he would never back down to her husband again, and whatever he did to interfere with filming, he wouldn't let it slide. Before leaving, Ma-yoon gave him a piece of advice: never go up against her husband, and never see her again. The next day at the hotel, the auction of rare antiques was being held. Intelligence agency agents had already been planted to arrest Seol Woo, so he couldn't directly participate in the auction. He had to rely on Woon Gwang and Do-ha to attend this important auction. He would be in the car outside, providing support if anything went wrong. The tight security at the conference made Do-ha feel pressured. No matter which way she turned, someone was watching her. Seol Woo noticed her tension and talked to her to relieve the pressure. She just needed to act confident and normal in front of them. He would take care of everything else. On Congressman Baek's side, things were also starting to move. He had assigned the traitor to clean up the mess. Not only him, but even the guys who kidnapped Do-ha last time were here. The auction finally started, opening with stolen rare antiques. Each item had an astronomical price. After many rounds of bidding, the wooden statue finally appeared. The starting price was $100,000. Not only Seol Woo's group, but also Chairman Sung Jae had someone participate in the auction on his behalf. No matter what price Woon Gwang offered, he would always bid higher. The price of the item started to increase exponentially, from $100,000 to $3 million. Woon Gwang's capital wasn't much anymore, so Seol Woo decided to use Plan B. Do-ha would approach the target and activate a signal jammer to prevent him from bidding. At the same time, Woon Gwang would time the final bid. Although Do-ha had approached the target, Woon Gwang was still hesitant to spend the money and didn't dare to press the button. To stall for time until the end of the auction, Du-ha had to cause a scene in the hall. Thanks to her innate acting talent, she helped Woon Guang successfully bid on the wooden statue. The second step of the plan was for Du-ha to go to the reception desk to pick up the wooden statue. After successfully verifying her identity, she quickly took the suitcase to the room. But before the elevator doors could close, the agents discovered her identity. They quickly alerted all their accomplices who were lying in wait. Seol-woo also moved out to support his girlfriend. He easily defeated the guards blocking his way to get to the rendezvous point, where Du-ha was waiting. But someone else had arrived before him, the fugitive traitor. He grabbed the suitcase with the wooden statue and left, but was stopped by security. They wanted to steal the item and eliminate the traitor. At the most critical moment, Seol-woo appeared. Together, they effortlessly defeated the guards. It turned out that this was the secret ally he had planted in the enemy's camp. After successfully handing over the wooden statue to Seol-woo, he would help him fake an explosion and completely disappear. This was the condition for their cooperation. At the same time, he would hand over evidence to help Du-ha's father get acquitted. A huge explosion caused chaos in the hall. Sung-jae was furious that all his plans had been ruined. The winner was once again Seol-woo. After retrieving the key from the second statue, Du-ha suggested that her brother hold onto both statues for safekeeping. Seol-woo promised that after the director returned, he would repay the $5 million she borrowed. He then went to see Chief Yang to hand over the evidence that would prove Du-ha's father's innocence. When he asked when they would carry out the next step of the plan, Chief Yang told him to put things on hold and wait for the director to return. Then everything would be over. Although he was suspicious of what the squad leader said, he agreed to follow orders. The next day, Du-ha's father was released by the court. He was surprised to see Seol-woo with his daughter. He was still bitter about how Bodyguard Kim had acted towards him before. Even Du-ha couldn't tell who the real Seol-woo was. Seol-woo acted like a ghost, appearing and disappearing, always making others worried. Back at the base, Seol-woo discovered that his senior had hidden a notebook. It likely contained information that would be helpful for the mission. But unlike his previous solo operations, this time Seol-woo texted Du-ha in advance to let her know what he was doing before he acted. He even thoughtfully gave her the password to the base in case she couldn't find him. After finding his senior's notebook, he quickly returned, only to have Du-ha point a gun right in his face. Even though it wasn't a real gun, she still fired it at him repeatedly to vent her anger. To appease his girlfriend, he decided to install a tracking device on her phone. Their relationship was starting to make new strides. In contrast to their blossoming love story, Woon Guang was worried that his $5 million wouldn't be returned. Congressman Baek was constantly on TV, demanding the director of the intelligence agency be fired, and Woon Guang's only hope was Seol-woo. He needed him to stay safe so he could get his money back. The next day, people from the intelligence agency came to question them about Bodyguard Kim. Luckily, he wasn't home at the time because he was out buying breakfast. Thanks to the smooth coordination between the two brothers, they were able to chase the agent away. Now, their every move was being followed by agents. The internal situation at the intelligence agency was chaotic. Chief Yang was summoned for questioning about the list of active ghost agents. Congress was putting constant pressure on them, making things even more difficult. Most importantly, they couldn't disperse the $5 million to pay Woon Guang back. So Seol-woo had to sadly return and deliver the bad news to his friend. Now Seol-woo would have to work his butt off to pay back the debt. The latest operation plan was to work as Woon Guang's bodyguard 24/7. Sung-jae once again made a new deal with the squad leader. He would help him arrest Congressman Baek and save the National Intelligence Service from chaos. Faced with an offer he couldn't refuse, Chief Yang finally accepted the terms this time. Their cooperation signaled a difficult battle to come. The chairman contacted the Russian side to try and get his hands on the third statue. So now everything was stacked against Seol-woo. And to make matters worse, Sung-jae interfered with Woon Guang's filming, causing every location to refuse to cooperate with the actor. Now everyone has become a target. Even if the intelligence agency abandoned them, Seol-woo would always be Woon Guang's good friend. But this made Seol-woo feel guilty. He decided to meet Du-ha one last time to say goodbye to everyone. Just because he was here, their jobs had been affected. Du-ha decided to be brave and try to keep him from leaving. She wanted to go on a date mission with Seol-woo. The first mission was to eat noodles together, and they worked together to annoy the tail who was following them. Du-ha was curious if agents ever told the truth, or if it was all just a disguise. Seol-woo coldly replied that as an agent, there was no off time, and you couldn't trust anyone but yourself. But since they were on a date mission, now he would act like a wonderful boyfriend. The two of them were all over each other all day, making everyone speculate. Rumors started spreading around the company that Do-ha was pregnant, but it was all just a disguise to make it easier for Seol-woo to escape the agency's control. Chief Yang gave him some bad news. After going on a business trip, the director had failed to retrieve the third wooden statue, saying it was in the hands of Russian billionaire Victor. Therefore, he wanted to remove Seol-woo from this next statue mission. Until there were new orders, he should stay put in his current position. Suddenly, Seol-woo asked if his senior's disguise had been exposed because the squad leader had revealed it. He was curious why this mission had to be so reckless. The squad leader, though surprised by the difficult question, quickly answered. He felt partly responsible for his senior's death, so he wanted to be the one to end this mission. But that seemed to be a lie to keep him in place. The chairman's people had handed him the file accusing Congressman Baek, just as agreed. He now had his hands on Baek's fatal weakness, making it easy to bring him down. At the interrogation the next day, Chief Yang released evidence proving the congressman's relationship with the traitor, which caused a shock throughout the hall. Everyone whispered and gossiped about the photo of the two of them together. Other rivals also took this opportunity to attack the old congressman. To protect his position, he went to see Chairman Sung-jae to show his loyalty, promising that he would take over the city of Seoul. Seol-woo wasn't going to sit around and wait either. He contacted a Russian agent to find out about the third wooden statue. Before that, he had also deciphered the message hidden in the notebook, which was the last clue. His senior had left him. There was only one person in the world who could give him the answer. Father Michael at the church that his senior used to frequent. The senior's code was closely related to the Bible, so he had guessed the name of the mysterious father. Even though people came to inquire, he didn't care. But when Seol-woo asked about his senior's name, he hesitated slightly. He was very surprised to hear that his senior had been taken care of, but he still refused to reveal anything until Seol-woo spoke the password. It was a verse from the Bible about the war in heaven, an earth-shattering battle with the evil dragon. After confirming Seol-woo's identity, he revealed that the person who frequently visited his senior was Chief Yang. But on the last day, he saw his senior. The squad leader had brought his close subordinate, Prosecutor Lee. Seol-woo was shocked to learn the truth, that even his closest superior was an enemy. At the same time, Chief Yang was meeting with the chairman. The two had joined forces, and Sung-jae wanted him to prove his loyalty by handing over Seol-woo's life. The squad leader arranged to meet Seol-woo at a secret location to hand over the keys. Although he knew the true purpose of this deal, Seol-woo still went. He decided to gamble his fate on the two keys. Would they help him collect all three statues? Or would everything fall into Sung-jae's hands? Before he could finish speaking, the Russian bodyguards appeared, fully armed. Seol-woo had been betrayed by his boss. Chief Yang coldly pulled out his gun and fired a shot that sent him falling off the bridge. Seeing that he was slowly sinking into the deep river, Chief Yang, satisfied, called the chairman to inform him. Even though they couldn't capture him alive, sending him to the afterlife was enough to please Sung-jae. In the freezing water of the winter weather, Seol-woo slowly regained consciousness. He dragged himself along, with a fatal wound that was bleeding profusely. The only person who could save him now was the traitor agent. Compared to a doctor, a former agent was much more trustworthy. The traitor was also very surprised that Seol-woo trusted him this much. Seol-woo understood that if he just took care of him, he could completely disappear. But he chose to trust him, because he knew that the traitor's grudge against the chairman hadn't been settled yet. The wound that the squad leader had inflicted on him was very precise, hitting a spot that wasn't life-threatening, which required the shooter to have a high level of marksmanship. This bullet wound was also a reminder for him to disappear for a while. Let the squad leader take care of everything. Do-ha was worried because she couldn't get in touch with her boyfriend, so she called her brother. Woon Gwang could only reassure his sister that Seol-woo hadn't run off with the $5 million. He would probably call back soon. Suddenly, she heard footsteps slowly approaching. It turned out that Seol-woo had returned, carrying a serious wound, just to see his girlfriend. Seeing him in such a critical condition made Do-ha's heart stop. After his girlfriend took care of his wound, his health finally stabilized. Woon Gwang, after hearing that his good brother had been seriously injured, rushed over to check on him. Seol-woo recounted the story of how he had been shot by the squad leader, and that he had done it to complete this wooden statue mission, even if it meant throwing away his trump card. Prosecutor Lee, after enduring so many difficult days, was finally released from prison. He went to see his squad leader to ask about the status of the mission, especially about his close subordinate, Seol-woo. Seeing the hesitant look on the squad leader's face, he understood that something shady had happened while he was in prison. The third statue would be delivered to the intelligence agency tomorrow, as well as the many notes that Seol Woo had left for him. Suddenly, he asked who had revealed his senior's identity, causing the mission to fail. The more he saw Chief Yang, the more suspicious he became. So he secretly followed him and discovered that he was meeting with the chairman. Seeing his respected senior betray the country broke his heart. The 3 keys had finally been gathered. On the key was the coordinated location of a secret room. The door to the room slowly opened before their eyes, revealing a collection of rare antiques, along with a large sum of money. Enough assets to shake the economy of a country. Chairman Sung Jae hadn't even had time to celebrate when Prosecutor Lee appeared with the police to arrest him. With the authority of a prosecutor, he could temporarily detain suspects, and he wasn't afraid to arrest even Chief Yang. He gave the traitor a warning punch, telling him to say what he wanted to say in court. Chairman Sung Jae was still very confident, even after being temporarily detained. He relied on his high-level connections to threaten Prosecutor Lee to release him. But the prosecutor had anticipated this situation and had prepared countermeasures. So even the minister couldn't help him escape right away. Suddenly, Mi Yoon, along with a defense attorney, arrived at the interrogation room. She demanded that the prosecution release him on the grounds of illegally detaining a businessman, which would affect the country's bilateral international relations, along with records related to the company's business. All of it proved Sung Jae's innocence, so he was forced to release him. At this point, Chief Yang was forced to tell the whole truth. Cooperating with Chairman Sung Jae was Plan B of the plan. The deepest part of the plan was giving up Sung Jae as the optimal solution. The squad leader had to sacrifice his honor to uproot all the weeds in the intelligence agency. Seol Woo began to return as an agent of the intelligence agency. The clue that his senior had left behind, hidden behind the painting, was found in the room. The words, "In speech there is a way," alluded to the famous painting of the good and evil angel. He coldly took a knife and slashed the painting to reveal the hidden map. After getting his hands on this important weapon, Seol Woo broke into the chairman's room, which greatly surprised Sung Jae that he was still alive. But the reason he came here wasn't for revenge, but to make a deal. Instead of using Chief Yang for his schemes, Seol Woo wanted to propose replacing the squad leader with himself. He understood his abilities and combat skills better than anyone else. If Sung Jae offered a reasonable price, they could get started. Seeing Sung Jae's face change when he mentioned Congressman Baek, Seol Woo guessed that the tape recording the illegal transaction hadn't been found yet. Otherwise, he would have been brought down by now, instead of living freely out there. Sung Jae was still skeptical of what he said, wondering if he should trust someone who used to be his enemy. Noticing the hesitation in Sung Jae's words, Seol Woo proposed a solution: have him test Chief Yang. If he fell into the trap, it would prove Seol Woo was telling the truth, and the cooperation would begin immediately afterward. Now, there was still a difficult problem that hadn't been solved. Someone had impersonated his senior agent to send him a message. The goal of this impersonator was also the missing tape. To completely control Seol Woo, he threatened to harm his loved ones. This was the fatal weakness that every agent wanted to hide. To prevent him from doing something reckless, Seol Woo would return to his bodyguard persona, and finding out the identity of the mastermind would be Prosecutor Lee's responsibility. The first person he targeted was the old fox, Baek, who was now very busy with his campaign before the Seoul mayoral election. To whitewash his wrongdoings, the congressman had actively staged a scene of kneeling before all the people. Prosecutor Lee found this performance infuriating. He took the initiative to approach him, telling him to come to the prosecutor's office to confess everything. After a few psychological tactics to determine whether Baek was the one who sent the letter, he was certain that it was someone else. Suddenly, Chief Yang appeared at the filming location. He was furious and wanted to know what Seol Woo was doing there. Didn't he understand the meaning of being shot? But Seol Woo didn't want to lie down and take it. He would be the one to end this battle and find out the true identity of the sender of the letter. Seol Woo went to the chairman's office to see the results of the test. Just as Seol Woo had predicted, Chief Yang was Chairman Sung Jae's guy. He offered the chairman to contact him if he wanted to eliminate that old man, Baek. Yesterday they were teammates, today they were enemies. Seol Woo could be anyone's shadow. After leaving the chairman's office, Seol Woo went to the church where the agents met. Michael sent you a warning letter, saying that it would be best if he didn't come into contact with the thing that had driven his senior down a dark path. If he had the opportunity, he would disappear and live a normal life. Don't trust anyone. On the other side, Congressman Baek had also started taking action. He had someone kidnap the CFO of the corporation, wanting information about where the chairman's secret documents were stored. He also threatened him to come forward and testify about the corporation's secret fund. This was a fatal stab in Chairman Sung Jae's back. This operation officially began when Seal Wu captured the CFO. He took him to meet Prosecutor Lee to turn over the secret documents. All the evidence about the slush fund was gathered here. Chief Yang was furious that Seal Wu had stolen his thunder, and Seal Wu arranged for someone to give the recording of the conversation to Old Man Bake. This was the sword that ended the political career of Congressman Bake. Chairman Sung Jae was very satisfied with the results that Seal Wu brought him. All the secret documents were handed over to the chairman, and in return, Seal Wu would receive $5 million as an exchange fee. Seeing that the plan had gone well even without him, Chief Yang submitted his resignation to the director, saying he would retire from the agency and return to seclusion. All hope would now rest heavily on Seal Wu's shoulders. Based on the suggestion that the father gave him before disappearing, the final answer would appear on the 58th floor. Suddenly, the person who appeared here was Mi Yoon, or more accurately, the senior agent, Ghost. She was also surprised that he had been able to uncover the secret so quickly. Seal Wu began to explain that the person who sent the letter was someone who knew his identity well. She was the one who cooperated with Chief Yang to make him the bodyguard, and she also knew all his relationships and actions during his operation. To do this, you needed a special identity, a long-term sleeper agent. It was the fallen senior agent who had chosen Mi Yoon to become a ghost agent. He was a very good person who always cared for her. Putting the past aside for the moment, the two now needed to find the item that the chairman's wife had left behind. That was the only clue to finding the missing tape. Even someone with years of experience in the intelligence agency, like Prosecutor Lee, didn't know about her identity. A woman who was willing to use her beauty as a weapon. After resigning from the intelligence agency, she always acted alone. A pragmatist who did everything to survive. During the time Woon Guang was in an accident, she didn't hesitate to marry Chairman Sung Jae to protect herself, to protect what was most precious to her. On his way home, Prosecutor Lee suddenly received a call from the director. He wanted him to personally report everything related to the operation. Because he was his superior, he didn't suspect the director's words at all. This operation would include Sung Jae, and even though he was her husband, she would eliminate all obstacles in her way. He called her to the office and revealed a hidden camera installed behind the wall. There was a secret office that specializes in recording illegal transactions. This was both an insurance policy and the source of the corporation's power. Mi Yoon was curious as to why her husband was telling her such a big secret about the company, but since she would now be taking over as director of the fund, he was revealing everything. After observing the entire inside of the secret room, Seal Wu noticed that hunting trophies were hung all over the walls. Even the guns had a dragon carved on them. He wondered if any of the corporation's properties were suitable for hunting. According to the secret documents obtained, there was a nearby mountain that the former chairman used to frequent. Seal Wu decided to disguise himself as an environmental worker and investigate. According to the villagers, his senior had also come here to investigate, but it took him 3 days of climbing the mountain to return. Before leaving, Seal Wu noticed the carvings on the guns. The villagers said that all the guns here had this carving, but they didn't know what it meant. On the other side, Mi Yoon had also determined that what the former chairman had left behind was his will, which was only given to the new chairman when he took over the corporation. The plan was proceeding smoothly when an unexpected incident occurred. Congressman Bake had someone kidnap Mi Yoon's son, but luckily Seal Wu had foreseen this and went to rescue the boy. To meet her son, Seal Wu required Mi Yoon to come alone to pick him up. The person he trusted to hand the boy over to was Woon Guang. Although very angry at him for acting on his own without telling her, Mi Yoon was grateful that he had saved her son safely. The secret will have also been brought to him. On the other hand, Sung Jae was still pretending to be a wronged parent to lure Bake into a trap. This was the final blow he had prepared for the old fox. All his confessions had been caught on camera. Sung Jae was curious as to why Seal Wu had known about the old fox's plan in advance. But for Seal Wu, this was just completing their previous deal in the most thorough way possible. To repay him, Sung Jae decided to give him the third wooden statue, along with an offer to become his official employee. Seal Wu happily accepted the gift and told him to look for him if he had any new deals. After returning to his base, he began to examine the will that the chairman had left behind. There were no signs that anything had been altered on the paper. This was the will that the former chairman had written himself. Although the content was short, it was very precise. The lone hunter left behind a dying statement. He had finally solved the mystery. At the same time, the director arranged to meet Prosecutor Lee. The prosecutor brought all the evidence he had with him. Because of this, the director somewhat harmed Prosecutor Lee. Although he was in hiding, Chief Yang received the photo that the prosecutor had sent. He immediately called to warn Seal Wu, but it was too late. Seol Woo frantically drove to the location, believed to be the rendezvous point for the transaction. It was the director who had colluded with Sung Jae to retrieve the missing tapes. Prosecutor Lee's condition after the accident wasn't good at all. He was currently in critical condition with a poor prognosis. Seeing his closest teammate harmed, Seol Woo couldn't keep his cool. He understood that this was the scheme of the traitors, even though he had been trained to not let personal emotions interfere with the mission. He couldn't forget the memories of the two of them working together. A friend, a brother, a respected teacher. If he didn't avenge this, when would he? The next morning, the intelligence agency came to search his base. Everything was turned upside down, but they couldn't find him. Prosecutor Lee was falsely accused by the director of being a traitor spy. Even Chief Yang, despite having resigned, was summoned. Do-ha had a bad feeling about her boyfriend. Suddenly, Ma-yoon called her to inform her of the location of the former chairman's funeral. Mi-yoon feared that he would come here to avenge those who had harmed his teammate, so she was giving her a warning. From a mountain far away from the location of the ceremony, Seol Woo was secretly observing every move of the traitor. He coldly pulled out his sniper rifle and aimed it directly at the head of the traitor. The safety was off, the gun was loaded, and he just needed to pull the trigger to send him to meet his maker. Suddenly, Woon Gwang and his girlfriend, Do-ha, appeared at the ceremony, causing a commotion. Security gathered in front of the director to protect him. Woon Gwang pulled out his phone to call Seol Woo and pleaded with him. If you do this, Prosecutor Lee will be branded as a spy for the rest of his life. No matter how angry you are, please stop. Let's use the law to punish the guilty. After successfully stopping his rage, Woon Gwang went to the hospital where the prosecutor was being treated. He had a few words he wanted to say to the reporters who were present. All the accusations that Prosecutor Lee was a spy were false. He was the most righteous prosecutor in Korea. All the newspapers exploded after the famous actor's statement. Taking advantage of everyone's lack of attention to the hospital room, Seol Woo disguised himself as a doctor to visit his senior. Even though he was a ghost agent, he was discovered by the prosecutor's wife. She knew his identity was that of her husband's colleague, the junior who always gave him a headache. She revealed that the doctor said he wouldn't last 3 days, but he wasn't that weak. He would wake up strong after this setback. Seol Woo assured her to leave everything to him. Acting according to the law, he would catch them all. That very evening, he broke into the director's house. He came here only to declare a final war, saying he wouldn't kill him, but instead, make his life like living in hell. After leaving, he went to see Ma-yoon. He wanted to confirm whether the operation would continue, even if her husband was involved in the case. Ma-yoon also understood that it was time to end this long war, so she would help him find a copy of the director's weakness. The next day, Bodyguard Kim returned to his job. Even though the intelligence agency was heavily searching for him, it didn't faze him. At the same time, the director had revealed Ma-yoon's identity to Chairman Sung Jae, saying she was the person he had sent to gather intelligence from the chairman. Even though he didn't want to believe it, all the evidence proved she was an agent. According to the intelligence he had, she had also been helping Seol Woo with his operation recently. Sung Jae, even though he loved his wife very much, still had to perform a test. He asked her what she thought about the director of the intelligence agency. Mi-yoon, not knowing anything, answered according to her personal feelings. He also revealed that the director's weakness was being kept in a safe. It was a perfect trap that he didn't want his wife to fall into. However, life isn't always a dream when Ma-yoon falls into the trap. Soon after, the chairman's people came to check her handbag, but they didn't find anything, which made Sung Jae very confused. Based on her experience as a ghost agent, she had detected her husband's lies, thereby successfully stealing secret documents to exchange with the director. Seol Woo also had to carry out the next step of the plan. He, along with Woon Gwang, would conduct a live interview with Chairman Sung Jae. In particular, he had carefully prepared a homemade bomb to end this operation. He disguised himself as a member of the film crew to approach the chairman. With his homemade bomb, he was able to control him. He sincerely advised him not to do anything foolish or run away. Only the truth can save you. Facing the chairman was his wife's ex, who would directly participate in the interview. At the same time, the director had also appeared in the chairman's office, where he would conduct a transaction with Agent Mi-yoon. She wanted him to hear and enjoy what he had caused. The interview began to heat up when Woon Gwang revealed that the chairman had tried to kill him twice, which caused a public uproar. No matter how hard he tried to deny it, he couldn't escape. Woon Gwang took out a pen that recorded his conversation. The content of the recording was him ordering someone to eliminate him. Everything was gradually becoming chaotic. The director was about to leave the office when he received a call from Seol Woo. If he hung up or ran away, the bomb under the table would explode. He angrily asked what Seol Woo wanted. Seo Woo coldly replied that it was revenge. The interview was still being broadcast live, and the director, though still talking tough, began to worry when he saw the evidence. Sung Jae at this point repeatedly denied the accusations made, saying that it was all done by others and that he didn't know anything. Noticing that he was still stubborn, Seo Woo signaled that he would detonate the bomb if he didn't tell the truth. With his life being threatened, he had no choice but to tell the truth. The one who caused everything was the director of the intelligence agency, which made the director truly furious at being betrayed. To prove his words, he presented a recording of the director's instructions. He was now no different from a demon going crazy, so the director told Seo Woo to detonate the bomb at any cost. Seo Woo agreed to the conditions that the director mentioned. He coldly pressed the detonation button, but nothing happened. It turned out that it was the secret room trigger that would record his confession. Chief Yang immediately had people arrest him on charges of treason. The interview ended there with a victory for Seo Woo. The chairman was also immediately escorted to prison by the police. After a long time battling the accident, Prosecutor Lee finally woke up miraculously. To honor his contributions to this mission, the president awarded him the Medal of Honor as a gift to the hero. Chief Yang had also been reinstated. The file of ghost agents had been sealed, and he gave Seo Woo a month to think about whether he should continue this work. The traitors, after being thoroughly investigated, had to endure a proper punishment. Do-ha and her boyfriend finally had time together, but work intervened once again. Seo Woo was informed by a foreign agent of a new mission. A large-scale international operation was about to begin. Although he was hesitant, in the end, he chose to serve the nation, choosing to sacrifice time with his loved ones to protect the country. This battle had ended, but life continued. Seo Woo would go abroad to carry out an urgent mission. The wide world always needed a hero to protect it, but surely one day, Bodyguard Kim would return. The drama comes to an end here. Thank you for watching this show, and hopefully, we'll meet again in future productions.